Plastic is fine for Ivy, my father said, loud enough for the entire table to hear. She's always been low maintenance. The laughter didn't come from one place. It rippled quick, practiced, familiar. I felt it land on my skin before I fully understood the words. Someone snorted. Someone else clinked their glass like punctuation. This is a story created by the author of the Revenge Sins channel for educational and inspirational purposes, and it does not portray any specific real-life individual. I looked down at my place setting as the server hesitated, then did exactly what my father had instructed. Everyone else had polished silverware laid out neatly on linen. In front of me, she placed a white plastic fork, light as air, the kind that bends before it breaks. "See," my cousin Jordan said, leaning back in his chair. Problem solved. My mother didn't look up. She took a sip of her mimosa, eyes fixed somewhere above my shoulder, as if silence were a form of manners. I picked up the fork. It flexed slightly between my fingers. "Still in that apartment near the bridge," Jordan added. "The one with the paper-thin walls Ivy likes simple," my sister Brooke said, smiling tightly. "She's never needed much." That wasn't true, but it was the version of me they preferred, the one who asked for nothing so they never had to give. Across the table, my Uncle Stephen wiped his mouth with his napkin. "You have to admit," he said to my father, "some people marry outcomes. Others marry potential." Brooke's smile widened. "Exactly." My fork scraped against the plate as I cut into my food. The plastic bent, then bent again. I pressed harder, refusing to ask for help. If you're listening to this story and you've ever been made to feel smaller in a room full of people who were supposed to love you, you already know how heavy a moment like this can feel. Stay with me. My grandmother Florence reached over and covered my hand with hers. Her grip was gentle but firm, like a reminder to stay present. "I'm glad you came, Ivy," she said softly. "I wanted you here. I'm here because it's your birthday," I replied, keeping my voice even. "That's all." My father leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. "Well, let's be honest. Some people build legacy, others just attend." The table went quiet, not out of respect, but anticipation. I felt every eye shift toward me, waiting to see if I would finally react. For a moment, I thought I might stand up, walk out, leave the plastic fork where it was, and never look back. Instead, I straightened my back and kept cutting my food, even as the fork bowed under the pressure. "No need to get dramatic," Jordan muttered. "We're just having brunch." I swallowed, slowly, carefully. If you're wondering what you would do in a moment like this, hold on to that thought. And if this story is stirring something familiar in you, take a second later to share where you're listening from. Stories like this travel farther when people recognize themselves in them. My grandmother squeezed my hand again. No one else spoke. The silence stretched, thin and sharp. And then, somewhere beyond the walls of the house, a low vibration began to hum, soft at first, almost easy to ignore. I paused, the plastic fork frozen in midair, unaware that everything was about to shift. My father used to say it like it was a compliment. "She's easy." He'd tell people, "low maintenance." I learned early what that meant. It meant I got the hand-me-down dress while Brooke got something new. It meant my birthday cake came from the grocery store bakery while hers was custom ordered with her name piped in silver frosting. It meant no one noticed when I stopped asking. At the table, I set the plastic fork down and reached for my water. "You always were the adaptable one," my Uncle Stephen said, as if offering reassurance. "That's a strength." "It is." My father agreed. "Not everyone needs more. The word hung there, heavy and unfinished. My grandmother shifted in her chair. "Douglas," she said quietly, "that's enough." He waved her off. "I'm not being unkind. I'm being honest." Brooke glanced at me, then back at him. "Dad's just saying Ivy doesn't care about these things." "Right," I met her eyes. "I care about being respected." The table went still for a beat, It wasn't a dramatic pause. It was the kind that happens when someone says something unexpected and no one knows whether to laugh or shut it down. Jordan broke it first. "Wow," he said. That escalated. My mother finally looked at me. Her expression was neutral, composed. "Let's not turn this into something it isn't." I nodded. That was her specialty, making sure nothing ever became what it actually was. My grandmother leaned closer. "You don't have to explain yourself," she murmured. "You never did." "I know," I whispered back. "I just thought today might be different." She squeezed my hand. Hope is a stubborn thing. Across the table. My father leaned forward, his voice lowering. "You've always had it easier than you think. No expectations. No pressure." I felt something tighten in my chest. That wasn't ease, I said. That was being overlooked. He frowned. "You're reading too much into it." "That's what happens when you're quiet," Jordan said with a shrug. "People assume you're fine." I picked up the plastic fork again. The prongs were slightly crooked now. I straightened them with my thumb, then stopped. I was tired of fixing things no one else thought were broken. "I stayed," I said slowly, "because Grandma asked me to come." My father scoffed. "Sentimentality doesn't change reality. Neither does pretending you didn't shape it." I replied. No one laughed this time. The low vibration outside grew stronger, a distant thrum that seemed to press against the walls. A few heads turned, distracted. My grandmother smiled at me, soft but knowing. "Whatever happens next," she said, "remember who you are?" I nodded, still holding the fork, unaware that the role they'd assigned me was about to crack quietly, completely. The vibration outside faded just enough for my father's voice to reclaim the room. "Let's not pretend this is about forks," Douglas said, folding his hands as if he were closing a meeting. "This is about choices." Brooke straightened in her chair. "Dad means life choices," she added, eyes flicking toward me. "Career, marriage, direction." I set the fork down carefully. "I chose a life that didn't revolve around impressing you." Jordan let out a short laugh. "That's one way to frame it." My father leaned back. "Another way is this: some people marry outcomes, others marry potential." There it was, the sentence he'd been building toward all morning. The table stayed quiet, the kind of quiet that gives permission. Brooke tilted her head. "He's not wrong. Some of us partnered strategically. Some of us followed feelings. I followed respect." I said. My mother sighed, finally breaking her silence. "Ivy, no one is attacking you." I looked at her. "Then why does it feel like I'm the only one being examined?" She didn't answer. Uncle Stephen cleared his throat. "We just worry. You've always been independent, sometimes too much so. Independent is what you call someone you don't want to invest in." I said. My voice surprised even me, steady, flat, done asking. Jordan raised his eyebrows. "You're taking this very personally." "It is personal," I replied. "You're talking about my marriage like it's a resume gap." My father's jaw tightened. "I built this family's reputation by thinking long-term. Legacy matters, and attendance doesn't," I asked. He smiled thinly. "Some people build legacy, others just attend." The words landed hard. I felt them settle somewhere deep, where old explanations used to live. My grandmother's hand tightened around mine. "Douglas," she said, calm but sharp, "you're confusing control with guidance." He waved her off again. "I'm being realistic." "No," she said. "You're being careless with someone who learned to survive your standards." I swallowed. I didn't ask to be measured this way. Brooke crossed her arms. Then why keep coming back? The question wasn't cruel. It was curious, like she genuinely didn't understand. "I came because I thought maybe today I could sit at this table without being reminded of what I'm not," I said. "That was my mistake." My father exhaled through his nose. "You're too sensitive." I pushed my chair back slightly, the legs scraping just enough to make everyone look at me. "I'm quiet," I said. "Not fragile." The low thrum outside returned, stronger now, pulsing through the floor. No one spoke. For the first time, the room felt unsure of itself. My grandmother leaned in close, her voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have to stay." I nodded, eyes still on my father. He held my gaze, waiting for me to flinch. I didn't. The vibration deepened, steady and unavoidable, as if something beyond the walls had finally decided it was time to be heard. The vibration grew louder, steady now, no longer easy to dismiss. Jordan was the first to look toward the windows. "Is that?" My father frowned. "Probably construction." "It's Sunday," Brooke said, standing halfway from her chair. "No one's allowed to do construction on Sundays out here." The sound deepened, not sharp, not frantic, controlled, intentional. My grandmother smiled faintly. She didn't look surprised. A server moved toward the window and hesitated, then pulled the curtain back just enough to peer outside. "There's a helicopter," she said, unsure whether she was allowed to announce it. My father stood. "That's not on our property." "No," the server said. "It's across the valley, at Ridgeline." The name shifted the air. I felt it before I understood why. Uncle Stephen straightened. "Ridgeline Estate." Jordan's smirk faded. "That place isn't even open to the public." The vibration softened, then steadied again, as if settling into place. The room waited. A few minutes later, the gate buzzer sounded. Sharp. Final. "I'll handle it," my father said, already moving. I stayed seated. Through the glass doors, I watched a black SUV roll slowly up the drive. No rush, no flash. It stopped. The engine cut. The driver stepped out first, opened the rear door, and stood aside. A man got out. He didn't scan the house. He didn't adjust his jacket. He walked as if he already knew where he was going. My chest tightened. "Ivy," my grandmother said softly. "Breathe." The door opened. Conversation stalled mid-word. Caleb Ross stepped inside like he belonged to the moment without needing to claim it. My father froze. Caleb's eyes moved once around the room. Calm. Observant. When they landed on me, his expression softened. He crossed the space without hesitation and stopped beside my chair. "Hey," he said quietly. I felt the timing was off. I stood, suddenly aware of how small the plastic fork felt in my hand. "It's fine," I said. "I was just finishing." He glanced at the table, then back at me. "No judgment, no questions." Jordan cleared his throat. "Sorry, do we know each other?" Caleb turned to him, polite but distant. "Not personally." My father stepped forward. "Sir, this is a private family gathering." Caleb nodded once. "I understand." Then he looked at me again. "Are you ready to go?" he asked. The question wasn't an escape. It was an offer. I nodded. "Yes." My father's voice sharpened. "Before you leave, I'd like to know who you are." Caleb didn't rush his answer. "Caleb Ross," he said, "owner of Ridgeline Estate." Silence fell hard. Uncle Stephen's mouth opened, then closed. My father's color shifted, something uncertain flickering across his face. Caleb didn't look at him again. He reached for my hand. I followed him toward the door, the vibration fading behind us, the room still caught in the moment before consequence. We didn't rush. That alone shifted the balance. Caleb and I walked side by side toward the door, our pace unhurried, as if the room behind us had already stopped mattering. I could feel every eye following us, the weight of attention changing shape from dismissal to calculation. "Just a moment," my father said. His voice carried again, but it wasn't confident now. It was edged with something thinner. "You can't just walk in and pull her out of here." Caleb stopped. He turned slowly, not defensive, not confrontational, simply present. "I'm not pulling her," he said. I asked. She answered. My father's jaw tightened. You said you own Ridgeline Estate. Yes. Uncle Stephen stepped closer, curiosity breaking through his restraint. You mean the Ridgeline that hosts private conferences and off-market events? Caleb nodded once. That's right. Stephen swallowed. The one with the licensed landing pad and the restricted booking list? Yes. My father looked between them. We reached out to Ridgeline last spring. We were told it wasn't available. Caleb met his eyes for the first time. It wasn't. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy. Final. Jordan shifted uncomfortably. So you're saying you turned us down, I'm saying, Caleb replied evenly, that the venue didn't align with the nature of the event you were planning. Brooke's voice wavered. What does that mean? Caleb didn't answer her. He looked at me instead. Are you okay? He asked. I glanced down at the table, at the plates, the untouched glasses, the plastic fork still resting where I'd left it, its prongs bent slightly out of shape. I said, and for the first time, it was true. I reached back and picked up the fork. It felt lighter now, almost insignificant. My father exhaled sharply. This is unnecessary drama. I turned to him. No, I said. This is the end of it. I placed the plastic fork gently on the table, aligning it with the silverware beside it. Thank you for lunch, I added. No sarcasm, no bite. Just closure. My grandmother smiled, her eyes bright with something like relief. Caleb opened the door. Cool air brushed my face as we stepped forward, behind us. My father spoke again, softer now. Ivy. I paused, but I didn't turn around. You don't have to explain yourself, Caleb murmured. Not for them, for me. I nodded and kept walking. As we reached the driveway, the sound from across the valley rose once more, steady and distant. Not a spectacle, a reminder. Caleb's hand found mine, firm and warm. You did exactly what you needed to do, he said. I squeezed his hand once, the house already receding behind us not because we'd escaped it, but because it no longer had anything left to take. The drive was quiet, not strained, just settled. Caleb kept one hand on the wheel, the other resting loosely between us. I watched the city rise ahead, familiar but distant, like something I'd once been waiting to earn access to. You didn't say much back there, I said. He glanced over. I didn't need to. I nodded. Thank you for not turning it into a scene. That was never my job, he replied. I wasn't there to correct them. I was there for you. We pulled into the garage and rode the elevator up alone. When the doors opened, the space greeted us without ceremony. Clean, quiet, thoughtful. I stepped inside and let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Caleb set his keys down and turned to me. Sit for a second. I did. He disappeared into the other room and came back with a slim navy folder. I was going to wait, he said. But today felt like the right moment. I opened it slowly. The words took a second to register. Ownership papers. Both our names. Printed clearly. Intentionally. You did this recently, I said. Last week, he replied. Everything was finalized yesterday. I closed the folder and pressed it against my chest. I didn't need this. I know, he said gently. That's why I wanted you to have it. My eyes burned. They always acted like I wanted more. They confused wanting dignity with wanting things. He said, There's a difference. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. I didn't go there to prove anything. I know, he said again. You went because a part of you still hoped. That landed harder than anything said at the table. I just wanted to sit there, I said, voice tightening, and not feel like I was asking for permission to exist. Caleb sat beside me. You don't need anyone's permission anymore. I turned to him. What if they never see it? He met my gaze. Then that's their loss, not your burden. Silence settled between us, warm and unforced. After a moment, he smiled softly. I'm proud of you. I exhaled, the tension finally loosening its grip. Not because I'd won, because I hadn't disappeared. My phone buzzed while I was still sitting on the couch, the folder resting on the table between Caleb and me like a line I hadn't crossed yet. I didn't look at it right away. Caleb glanced over. You don't have to answer. I know, I said. Then I picked it up. The family group chat had come back to life. Jordan was first. So that was your husband. No punctuation. No apology. A second message followed almost immediately. Didn't realize Ridgeline belonged to him. Uncle Stephen joined in a few seconds later. That's an impressive operation. I've heard they host some very selective clients. Selective. The word made my jaw tighten. Brooke's name appeared, then disappeared. Typing, stopping, typing again. She finally sent one line. You could have told us. I let out a short breath. Apparently, silence is only a problem when it embarrasses them. Caleb didn't comment. He didn't need to. Another message came through. This one from my mother. Your father didn't mean for things to go that way. I stared at the screen. He's just old-fashioned, she added. You know how he is. That's the excuse, I said aloud. It always is. Caleb nodded. Do you want to respond? I thought for a moment. Then typed slowly, deliberately. I didn't marry Caleb to impress you. I paused, then continued. I married him because he never treated me like something to be evaluated. The typing bubbles appeared, vanished, appeared again. Nothing came through. A minute passed. Then 2. Finally, my father's name lit up the screen. We should talk. I locked the phone without replying. Caleb watched me, his expression steady. You're not shutting a door, he said. You're choosing when to open it. I leaned back against the couch. They didn't reach out when I needed kindness. No, he agreed. They reached out when they felt exposed. The phone buzzed once more. I didn't check it this time. I set it face down on the table next to the folder and rested my hand over Caleb's. Whatever they wanted to say next would have to wait. I wasn't ready to carry their discomfort along with my own peace. The knock came the next morning, slow and deliberate, like the person on the other side wasn't sure they deserved to be answered. Caleb was still asleep. I opened the door alone. My father stood there without his jacket, his posture less rigid than I remembered. No driver, no assistant. Just him, holding his hands together like he was trying to keep them from shaking. I didn't know, he said before I could speak. I didn't know who he was. I stepped aside but didn't invite him in. If he wasn't, I said. Would anything have been different? He hesitated. That's not fair. It's the only fair question. I replied. He exhaled slowly. I pushed you because I wanted you to be stronger. There it was. The sentence I'd heard in different forms my entire life. You didn't push me, I said. You stood on me. His brow furrowed. That's not how I see it. Of course not, I said. You were above it. He looked down, then back at me. I raised you to survive in the real world. You raised me to believe worth had a price tag, I said, and that if I didn't meet it, I should shrink. He shook his head. That was never my intention. Intent doesn't erase impact, I said. You made my silence convenient. You let everyone laugh. His jaw tightened. I didn't realize you realized, I interrupted. You just didn't think it mattered. The words landed. He blinked hard. Once, I saw the way he looked at you, he said quietly, like you mattered more than anything else in that room. I crossed my arms. I always mattered. You just needed someone else to show you. He swallowed. I failed you. The admission hung between us, fragile and overdue. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he said. I'm asking for a chance to do better. I met his gaze, steady. Then start by understanding this. I didn't need money to be enough. I needed respect. He nodded slowly. I don't know how to fix what I broke. You don't, I said. You change what you pass forward. Silence stretched. He glanced past me, toward the hallway, as if hoping for a sign of welcome that wasn't coming. I should go, he said. Yes. I agreed. He turned, paused, then looked back once more. I'm proud of you. The words were soft. Too late to be a cure. Still heavy enough to bruise. After he left, I closed the door and rested my forehead against it for a moment. My chest ached, but it wasn't the familiar ache of being unseen. It was something cleaner, sharper. Caleb came up behind me, his presence steady. You okay? I am, I said. For the first time, I said everything without asking to be understood. He wrapped his arms around me. That's strength. I leaned into him, breathing slowly. The past finally losing its grip, not because it was forgiven, but because it no longer had authority over who I was becoming. The invitation arrived 3 days later, formal and restrained. My parents' names printed neatly across the front. Family dinner. A chance to reset. No apology. No explanation. Just an opening. I didn't tell Caleb right away. I read it once, then again, then set it on the counter and walked away. By evening, I picked it back up. I'm thinking of going, I said. He looked at me, attentive. What do you want from it? I don't want anything. I replied, I want to see who they are without the performance. He nodded. Then go as yourself. I arrived alone. No announcements. No waiting. The door opened and my father stepped back immediately, giving me space instead of direction. The table was set differently this time. No place cards, no hierarchy. The silverware was the same at every seat. My grandmother smiled when she saw me. There you are, she said. Sit wherever you like. I chose a seat near the end. No one spoke at first. Then my father cleared his throat. Before we eat, he said, I need to say something. He looked around the table, then at me. I taught everyone here what to value. I taught it wrong. Brooke stared at her plate. Jordan shifted uncomfortably. My mother folded her hands. I measured worth by outcomes. My father continued, by appearances. And I let that turn into cruelty. I didn't interrupt. He exhaled. I don't expect forgiveness. I'm asking for accountability. I met his gaze. That starts by not asking me to make this easier for you. He nodded once. I understand. Dinner moved forward without ceremony. Conversation was cautious, uneven, honest in small ways. When my grandmother touched my arm and pressed a small ring into my palm, she didn't explain it. Your great-grandmother wore this, she said. She built her life quietly. Inside the band, the engraving was simple. Worth is chosen. I stood after the meal, earlier than expected. I'm going to go. My father didn't stop me. Thank you for coming. I inclined my head. Thank you for listening. Outside, the night air felt steady. Caleb was waiting down the block, hands in his pockets, watching for me without watching over me. I slipped the ring onto my finger as I reached him. Was it worth it? He asked. For me, I said. Yes. We walked away together, not in silence, but in ease. Behind us, there was no table to return to. Ahead of us, there was no need to prove where we belonged. I had already chosen.